Hi, everybody. Amy Conley here with United Way of Door County. Today, we are here with one of our strategic partners. We have Door Tran with us today. Ladies, can you please introduce yourselves?
Good morning. I'm Kim Gilson and I'm the volunteer coordinator here at Door Tran.
Hello, and I'm Nikki Voigt. I am their executive director.
Wonderful. Thank you. So, for folks who may not know, real brief, what is Door Tran?
Door Tran is a creative community network dedicated to connecting people to transportation resources that are affordable, available, and accessible.
Wonderful. And maybe some of our viewers don't know, so we don't fund just the whole Door Tran agency. We fund certain programs within the agencies. And over at Door Tran, we work primarily with the volunteer program, which also includes the veterans program. So, Kim, you want to tell folks a little bit about that?
Well, what happens with that is we organize rides. So if someone lives here in Door County and they need to get to someplace out of Door County, usually like to go into Brown County or Kewaunee County, like going to a clinic or an appointment in Luxembourg and Algoma, Kewaunee, or into Green Bay, going to any of the hospitals there or to a clinic, they would call us and we would help arrange that transportation for them. They'd let me know when their appointment is, and then I will work with our volunteers to see who can cover that trip. Our volunteers will pick them up at their home, wait for them to get done with their appointment, and make sure they get home as well. With the veterans, that will be a free ride for them to get down to their medical appointments that are connected with the VA, whether it's at the VA or if the VA sends them to another facility. We arrange those also at no cost to the veterans.
Great. So let's just focus on the veterans for a little bit. So, same thing, they get picked up at their door, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And just like you said, any medical appointment, so whether it's at that VA clinic or the clinic has made a referral to a specific
Yes.
provider clinic somewhere in the state, right?
Mhm. Yep.
Okay. And
Yep.
no charge because you have a partnership with the Veterans Affairs Office.
Correct. We
Okay.
have one with them. They help pay for it. And also with the County of Door helps us with a vehicle for certain days a week that we're able to use that vehicle. And then we supply the volunteers and make those rides possible for people to get down to their medical appointments. Now, if a veteran has an appointment that maybe is not connected to the VA, then we can still take them. It would
Okay.
just be for a fee.
Okay. Okay.
And I just
Um,
want to clarify real quick. The veterans typically we dispatch and we start out at the ADRC. If people can get there, that's our preferred method. Gather everybody there and depart from there.
sure.
However, there is some flexibility to be able to pick up people at their homes if they're typically on the way to the VA facility. We cannot go north to pick people up in like Ellison Bay, Sister Bay, Bailey's Harbor, keeping that in mind. But we would make arrangements to get them to the ADRC or to get them all the way to their appointment.
That's wonderful. That's a great service. And typically those volunteer drivers for that program are vets themselves, right?
Many of them are, yes.
Yes. So I'm sure there's a lot of storytelling that goes on during those rides.
Absolutely. We've heard several times that the veterans have been able to share, make connections, even talk about different medical things that they've been through and share that story with other vets in the vehicle and put people's minds at ease about what's coming up for them.
Yeah, great. So then switching gears to the volunteer program, on the volunteer side of things. So Kim, you started by saying typically appointments out of the county, but really that's for anyone who would need a ride anywhere who income qualifies, right?
Correct. It's a Door County resident is the most important thing. If they are elderly or they have a disability and they are a Door County resident, they are definitely qualified for the program. It's set up for people that wouldn't otherwise be able to get to their appointments. Public transportation is huge here in Door County and it's great, but it doesn't leave the county. So for people that don't drive, getting to that specialist or to the hospital down in Green Bay just isn't possible. So our volunteers make that possible for them to get to those appointments.
Wonderful. And if it's a social appointment, is that allowed?
Yep.
Okay.
In fact, we encourage people if they're going down, since they're already paying for a trip down to Green Bay and they're gonna go down and maybe see a doctor for a checkup. Hey, do you have other stops you need to make? Maybe it's a store or a place they like to eat that they can't get to because we just don't have that here in Door County. Then it's a stop we can add on for them.
Great. And there's it's like a small fee, right, for these
Correct.
rides?
Correct.
Okay.
Our fees are based on the poverty level. So a rider might pay only 10 cents a mile or up to 40 cents a mile. And like I said, that is based on their household income. Now, if someone says, I don't want to share what my household income is, that's perfectly okay. We charge them at that 40 cents a mile.
Okay. Okay. So then the flip side of that, volunteers, right? We
Yes,
need volunteer drivers. So
always.
so if somebody's interested in volunteering or learning more about even just being a driver, they
Mhm.
can call you, right?
Absolutely. I'd love to talk to them. The nice part about our volunteer group is it's a large group. And, like any project, many hands makes the project lighter. So we've got a bunch of people. I will put the asks out there and say, hey, I've got this trip coming up. Is anybody able to help? A lot of times people will incorporate it. They've got to go down to Green Bay to pick something up anyway. So this works out perfect. They take the person to their appointment. They maybe quick run over to Sam's Club and pick something up and come back, and they're ready when the client comes out from their appointment and they're ready to head home. So it works out really well for most people. We do reimburse the drivers for their mileage. And if they're on the road more than 4 hours, there's also a small reimbursement for lunch. So it works out really well for them. It's a win-win. Gets people out of the house. You get to meet lots of new people in the area. So many of our riders have so much to offer and stories and just getting to know somebody new. We've had a lot of connections made where it turns out these people were neighbors back in Illinois.
Oh,
And it happened. Or that they are somehow shirt tail relation and never knew it until they sat and talked about it. So it's a great way to get out and feel good about what you're doing when you're volunteering, and you get the benefits of what you're doing as well then.
mhm.
One thing I just read in an article or heard on a webinar was there are cars parked in driveways coast to coast. Let's get them on the road and help our neighbors. So, if you're listening to this, something you may not have considered before, give us a call and see where you can fit in with Door Tran.
Yeah.
That's great. I love that, Nikki. So if I want to ride with one of the programs we talked about, if I
Mhm.
want to volunteer, or I'm just confused about all the public transportation and volunteer transportation options, who do I call? How do I figure this all out?
Oh, you call us. We've got,
Okay.
and that's what we do. We field so many calls a day, so you're not alone in the confusion. But you call us, we'll set you up with a series of questions and just like, oh, okay, and maybe ask the first question always if you're a Door County resident. Maybe if you have other medical transportation available to you. We'll talk about when and where you want to go and which program that works best with.
Mhm,
But it's really as easy as just calling Door Tran, and we'll get you set up. We'll help you figure out what your best option for each trip. And it might be a different option each time.
mhm.
So, it's never a bad thing to just give us a call and we'll talk about it and figure out what works for you.
And that,
Great. And what's
that
that
goes,
phone number?
oh, sorry, that goes back to our mission, the affordable, available, accessible. That series of questions will put you into that great fit for you to make it the best option each and every time. And yes, the phone number.
920-743-9999. So easy to remember, 743-9999.
Wonderful. And Nikki, I've got a question for you.
Yes.
Um, so, we talked about the direct funding, so the grants that United Way gives to Door Tran. But what are some of the other ways maybe that people don't know that United Way has helped Door Tran or is helping Door Tran?
They offer support. Obviously, the 211 is a great tool, and we will refer people to that when they're in need. We kind of read between the lines, hear what people are not saying. Oftentimes, they'll call us with one issue and it turns into something completely different. So having that 211 resource is very helpful. Just the partnerships, the support, being able to walk through a situation and how can United Way help us. I mean, you guys were there from the very beginning as our fiscal agent. We couldn't have done this without you having that support. And in the beginning, some of our funding that we applied for, and it still is a reimbursable grant through the Department of Transportation. So funding that early on and putting that money first and then waiting for those reimbursements is always a challenge every year. In fact, this year it was September before we got the January through August income. So just to have that financial support in the beginning was very important. Amy has served on our board of directors. That's been a huge piece, and just the support in general. We've got a situation. How can you help?
Yeah, I think that's, some of what sometimes the community isn't aware of, right? Like, why does United Way have staff? Why do they pay for that staff? So kind of wanting to just stress some of that work we probably do very quietly behind the scenes that people
Absolutely.
don't know about.
Absolutely. It's totally important to be able to collaborate and coordinate, and I think get people in a room to talk in those discussions early on. I think about the daycare, the housing, and all of those different things. They started out as just a small little idea and thought process, and you being able to bring people to the table and gather and talk and make those connections is absolutely humongous for our community and very beneficial. So thank you.
And the volunteer programs, just having those volunteer fairs and taking over, making sure those happen every year. That's been huge. And we appreciate United Way for all of that.
Well, that's great. Thank you both so much. Thank you for what you do. Transportation in my mind is a basic need. So thank you for providing that service to our community. And with that, we're going to end our visit today. So thank you so much, guys. We'll see you soon.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.